Cyril, what a beauty! Hawthorne.
I don't believe it! I see it, but I don't believe it! Class with a capital C! How did he do it?
Leonberry, you star! Oh my goodness! Is this one to remember?
G'day, community, and welcome to the Jock, Reynolds Supercoach podcast. I am Lekdog, and I am joined today on this, it's early Monday evening, by Patch. Patch, how are you?
I'm good, Lekdog. I'm alright. How are you, my good friend? How are you?
Still dying from the flu, so get your flu shots if you're out there. I didn't this year, and I am legally deceased, so it might not be a whole lot of talking from me this podcast, and certainly you'll have to excuse my nasally hum.
Anyway, I've been selected. I've been picked back in the side this week. Do you want to talk through the decision as chairman of selectors? I feel like it's an interesting situation. You put up a long thread on the old Twitter bots last week addressing the situation. Bit of lack of clarity for some members of the side over who was playing where. Do you want to address?
Look, we don't need to get really too into this, but I'll say this. Look, as the chairman of selectors, head of podcast recruitment and development at jockreynolds.com.au, look, it's my job to make sure that we've got the best people in the best positions that they can fill to succeed. So I want everyone to grow. I want everyone to put out a good display each and every week. And Patch, honestly, last week, and you and I have spoken about this plenty of times, there's been enough technical difficulties. There's a few lessons, a few learnings that you've still got ahead of you. And as I've said, you're a legend of the sport. You're a legend of the pod. You bring fantastic stuff to the table, but occasionally someone puts their hand up, and Tim Mitchell did that last week. He put his hand up. He gave us some inside goss ahead of the Dpps that came out this week, and that's a string that you just haven't quite added to your bow yet, Patch.
Look, I'm working on it, and I know the technical difficulty thing has been a bit of a challenge. Oh, crap! Hang on, been a bit of a challenge, but we're getting there. We're slowly getting there. And I had fun on the mailbag pod. So if you're not getting around the mailbag pod each and every week, get around it. Even if I'm not on it, it's real good. Damo and Clarkey are very good.
Yeah. You took it graciously and gracefully. And honestly, I mean, the implication from me is that this is the better of the two pods. But if you actually listen to the content of them, you know that that's not true at all. So if anything, I've probably promoted you, sent you to the mailbag pod, and you've absolutely delivered gold with the lads. And I think you might have given Clarkey a hernia. He was laughing so much.
There was a bit of giggling, but the guest they've got on this week, I don't think I'm allowed to say who it is just yet, but it's a big guest, so I was rightfully demoted back here. Anyway, we're not here to talk about us. Well, we are kind of, because we're now going to talk about our good things and bad things before we get into some detail. But thank you for just explaining the situation to our wonderful listeners.
No, that's all right. Well, as you said, let's start with the good and the bad. See, we're already gelling. There's already back and forth, you and me. Smooth transitions. My good thing for the week, Patch, is, can I say two? Because Damo's not here this week. I just want to say two.
Yeah, okay. You can say two good things and I'll say two bad things.
Okay. One is Connor Rosie, as you predicted, turned up against Essendon, and I have him in my forward line. I got him about $300,000, and he's been averaging okay since then. But the other thing is, and this is going to 100% backfire moving forward. Like 100%, this will backfire on me.
We love that. We love that.
But I traded in. I had planned to trade in Nick Blakey last week. It was sort of all locked in. Denard called you on the Friday, was like, am I going to do this? You said, yep, let's do it. I said, good, that's the confirmation I needed. Laid out. I panicked. I pivoted. I bought in Jake Lloyd for the first time, I think, ever. I've never owned Jake Lloyd in defense. He always has broken the 550K rule. Traded him in, and he scored 101 points. Blakey wasn't in the team, I'll admit, but he did score 101 points, and I have him. And moving forward, I'm sure he's going to be fantastic and never score badly again.
Yep, never again. It's simply not happening. It's not happening at all.
No, he's a gun. He probably goes back to 120 plus a week.
Exactly. The Seagull, he's back in form now, and you picking him is what sparked that. And no doubt we can speak about whether or not he's a viable option for other normal people later in the podcast. My good thing, we've had it quite a lot this season, but Lachlan Neal, quite good, and I'm glad that I nailed him as a VC captaincy selection option. That was a nice little pat on the back moment for me, and yeah, well done to him for scoring lots of points. Those people that had Tom Stewart, shout out to them. He would be their good thing this week. I just want to give him credit. I don't have him because I'm an idiot and I'm bad at Supercoach, but the people that did have him would be laughing.
You know, it's funny. I considered him at the last minute because I had the cash to get him, and I thought, no, he's over 550k. He's too expensive. I can't bring him in. Well, now he's over 600k. So, yeah.
Yes. Not ideal. Not ideal. That does bleed into my bad thing, though.
Yeah. Let's go there.
Yeah. So my bad thing was that I nailed the VC choice, and then the captaincy was on Jack Carroll, who had not been selected by the Carlton Football Club to play a game of football this weekend. So I went for a hike in a very deserted forest on Sunday, and atop the only hill in the area got a message from Damo saying Jack Carroll is the sub, and I then had to Lion King my phone in the air trying to get reception so that I could change my captain from Jack Carroll, who was inevitably subbed on and scored 15 points, to George Hewitt, who 118. It's fine. Not quite 164 though. Not quite that good. So my negative is just the Carlton Football Club in general. Not normally don't love it as an entity, as a thing. This week particularly, very negative, visceral reaction to seeing that navy blue.
No, that's fair enough. I thought for a second there that you had kept captain as Carroll as captain, and I thought, geez, that's a worry because you didn't score well. I didn't score much better, and I thought you had captain on Carroll. So it's good to know at least your captain outscored my captain, and we're in the same ballpark of badness.
Yes. Oh, it's a terrible ballpark. The fences are all falling down. There's no grass. There's like a dog just chewing on a tire in the corner, and if it looks at us, I think it will eat us. But we're in the same ballpark. We're in it together.
Hey, my bad thing. Quick one. Mark McVeigh.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think I'd have an enemy in a GWS coach again so quickly, yet here we are. Deployed Matt DeBoer, not on Lucky Neal, not on Jared Berry or Jared Lyons or Cam Rayner, who was playing very well, but he deployed the tag on Daniel Rich.
On who?
On the greatest player of all time, Daniel Rich, who has been my pod in my team and has been just trundling along very nicely. It wasn't till the weekend someone tweeted me about him saying, geez, he's playing well since you traded him in.
Oh,
and
dear.
And then Mark McVeigh deploys Matt DeBoer on Daniel Rich, and he scores 55 points. So that's my negative. And Mark McVeigh, I have bring back the cube, I say. Bring back the Cameron's cube.
Oh, geez, we're already calling for the cube's return. And honestly, Lekdog, I think, I don't want to exaggerate, or be facetious or be a bit over the top, but Mark McVeigh could well be tried for war crimes for such an act. That's honestly inexcusable, really.
In the list of things that I hate in the AFL, it goes Clarko when he was against sleeves, Clarko when he didn't let Fev kick 100 goals, Mark McVeigh tagging Daniel Rich.
Above, free agency and player movement rules.
No, at least those have some sort of logic behind them.
Yeah, do they?
Some sort of logic behind them. What's the logic behind stopping Daniel Rich denying the fans joy?
Gosh, he's a hateful, spite-filled man.
Lucky
that
Neal
Mark
had
McVeigh.
39 disposals and kicked 2 goals.
Yeah, but they weren't effective, he says in his most Nathan Buckley-esque voice possible.
Yeah, well, guess what? Brisbane won the game. So, anyway, sorry.
Anyway, you said you'd make it quick, and I feel like that was quick, all things considered. I'm going to do Damo's negative, and I'm just going to say the Jack Carroll thing again because it made me really mad, and I'm really annoyed by it. So, get stuffed, Michael Voss. Get absolutely stuffed.
All right, obviously, it's the first buy round this week.
Wait, what? It is? Oh, God. Oh, no.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. It's round 12. So for those who are listening to this, but for some reason might not know how the buy works, best 18 scores count for you. They have to be on field. You can't have 6 on field in defense and a 7th on your bench in defense. You will only get the score from players that are on field. The best 18 scores count. This week, the buy, aka teams not playing, Carlton Football Club, so that's your Cripps and your Hewitts. Port Adelaide, that's your Rosies and your Butters. St Kilda, that's your
Sinclair's.
Greshams and Sinclairs. Essendon, yep. Giants.
I mean, in our defense, Essendon's had the buy for the last 6 weeks in a row, so what's changed?
Well, this time it's affecting Supercoach scoring. Previously, they were just giving out random net-generated numbers. This week, they're not even doing that. GWS, Bruce and Gnigliog. Going to have a discussion about Bruce, I think, later on. And Richmond will also miss. So that's your Jaden Shorts and your Daniel Rioli. So I'm sure everyone has
every single person will have Daniel Rioli because you're all normal, well-adjusted listeners who would follow sensible, sage advice that we gave out right after he scored 3 tons in a row, and then he stopped being good.
If you're looking to worry about this week, aka you're playing for rank, I believe most leagues patch stop during the buys, don't they? Or can that be set up by the leagues?
It can be set up by the league. So if your commissioner hates you and hates everything that is pure, then you'll be playing for the next 3 weeks, in which case maybe just target a couple of games and go, right, I'm going to win these 2 games and forget the other one, or just roll with it. Just don't really care. Just make sure you go throw an egg at your commissioner for making you play through the buys.
Yes, of course. And do it anyway for good sport.
It is. Keeps them humble.
Yes. It's commissioners, and I am a commissioner of several leagues, they think they're the best because we are.
You better run, egg.
So if your games aren't playing this week, you probably don't need to make trades. If you're playing for rank and stuff, you probably need to continue. But Patch, of course, the warning we must give is that anyone you trade into your team this week will miss in one of the following 2 weeks after this round. So you really need to pick and choose who you're looking to target.
Well, not necessarily. I've brought in somebody who will not miss in the following 2 rounds. He'll miss this round. So, checkmate, atheist.
Okay, let's start there, Patch.
Yeah, well, I mean, I brought in Mitch Owens, who played his second game and is on the bubble this week after scoring 91 points more than he did in round 1 in his second game this week, and he scored 89 this week. So that tells you how good round 1 was.
And are you upgrading? Like, what's
I've done a downgrade. I've gone Joshy Gibcus down to Mitch Owens because traditionally, often, that first week of the buys has been a cash generating maneuver because we've got more trades, so we can fire away on upgrades next week on these players that are having their buys this week. So you can assemble a war chest and then deploy it next week, and trading somebody who is having a buy this week, a rookie like a Gibcus, and then if you can swing your Nick Dacos's back to defense, or you can swing your Nick Martins around, you can then, or trade a Nick Martin down to a Mitch Owens, you can make bulk cash, and then you're still not adjusting your buy structure. The player that's already missing, you're trading to a player that is already missing. It doesn't change anything, doesn't hurt anything. It just gives you a lot of cashola to splashola.
And nothing bad could happen from trading in a rookie early, could it?
No. I mean, he is on the bubble, so assuming bold claim yet again, but he looks like he'll hold his spot after a very, very good game. comes back in next week, starts generating cash. But yes, there is the inherent risk that, he's walking down, the streets of St Kilda and a piano falls on him out of an 8th-story window. You always run that risk when you trade a player in early.
Purely for the record, I do not endorse trading in Machito Owens early. Other players on the bubble, Patch.
Yes.
There isn't any.
No, correct. There are not. Unless, there's maybe one.
Yes, Luke Cleary, if he gets named, he was the sub last week. I imagine it's unlikely unless they decide to rest some players going into their buy round. I think it's unlikely he plays, but he is on the bubble. And then the only other guy to discuss is someone who I got completely wrong. I said he'd score 20 this week. Joel Jeffrey scored 93 from, what did I say? It was
13 touches
13
and a
disposals
goal.
and a goal. So I didn't watch the game. Maybe they were very good disposals. I'm sure they were. But now at an elevated price of $189,000, if you need players for round 12, is he too expensive, Patch? Break even, -77.
I mean, look, he could score -2 and still make bulk cash. So, he'll play. They love him. He's quite good at football. Often that doesn't translate, or sometimes that doesn't translate to the fantasy formats. But obviously, what he's doing, Champion Data are enjoying. And he's playing a vital role in that side. You could do worse, but I suspect it'll be similar to a Mally Rose's situation for those of us that brought him in. And he'd had a couple of 70s and then a 20, and then we'll just kind of fluctuate between, probably average about 50. I think he's a fine option. Won't make you as much cash, but that's the way it's got to be, little darling.
You'll go riding on the horses. Yeah. Now, here's a question for you. If we're looking to bring in, let's say we're looking to bring in a premium this week.
Yes.
You're like me. You want to build up your on-field players for this week. Currently, I have 17 players playing, assuming they all get named. I want to bring in an 18th.
Yes.
Should I be looking for value / point scoring potential, or as my dog gets up and walks around?
Here, boy.
Yes, everyone, we have a new dog at the podcast studios.
Official sponsor of the podcast, Dog. Very exciting.
His name is Carl, short for Carlton, because it was the only way it was going to get across the line. Okay, my question.
He's not lying either. He's actually called Carl, which
short for Carlton.
Yeah.
Very confusing, given we have a cat named Carla. All right. So my question: do we focus on getting a really good player / value, or do we look at the buys and go, okay, I'm bringing in a player for this round. Does it matter if they have the buy in round 13 or round 14? Like, should I be focusing on? Let's look in defense. I'm looking at value.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to need you to start the question again, because my brain was like, you need to get us a turtle called Carlos. And that's the only thing I've been able to think of for the last 5 seconds, and I missed the start of your question.
Should I look at? I'll use Luke McDonald as an example, right?
Yep.
He's a value pick. He's been scoring well. I'm not going to actually bring him in, but as an example, because he plays both this week and next week. Is that more value to me, him having the round 14 bye, or do I bring in like a Rory Laird, who I know is going to miss next week? Should that play into coaches' decisions for trades this week?
Well, it depends on your buy structure. If you're well stocked for players next week, then bring in Rory Laird, because he's going to score more points on the run home for the rest of the season. If you're, absolutely stuffed next week, don't bring in a player who's going to miss next week. I think that's, I think that's the deciding factor there, really. Not necessarily the value, not necessarily, any other factors. I think it is a case of, that there are maybe 1 or 2 players who we'll talk about in a moment who you'd be looking to jump right on as soon as possible. But I don't think there are too many in that situation.
Yep, I that's fair enough. I agree. Before we talk about players to target, I just wanted to note a couple of injuries that might affect Supercoaches out there. Stephen May has gone down for Melbourne. He'll miss this week with a concussion at least this week. Christian Salalem is a test, and he was a big pod choice at the start of the year, so he is one to consider for us. Jeremy McGovern from West Coast has gone down. I know a few people have brought him in. Back injury, not sure the extent of it today on Monday afternoon.
Back injury sounds bad, though. It sounds bad.
It doesn't sound super fantastic. Might have some flow-on effect scoring-wise to like a Witherden or I don't know if any other relevant defenders they have.
Does Greg Clark play fullback? Otherwise, I don't really
He might have
care. Well, they've got no one else. It's dire. Like McGovern is. Oh, geez, it's so bad for them. It's real bad. They're real bad.
At Hawthorn, Jack Scrimshaw has been subbed out again with concussion. It's happened a few times now. I think it has. He's been injured quite a bit this year. The follow-on effect is like, is that going to affect Sicily? The answer is no, because Sicily has absolutely dominated this season. He is an absolute beast. What a fool I am for not having him in my side.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Wiedering for the Blues. This won't affect any super coaches out there, but will miss at least 6 weeks with an AC injury. Blues season starting to get a little bit shaky, but we'll have to see how they line up. We'll see if they have any more defensive roles for guys like Sam Doherty or hell, George Hewitt, etc.
Serves you right for having hope. Should have just done the Essendon path and just had no hope right from the start. Set the expectations right down here, and then fail to meet them each and every week.
You can't make me laugh. I'm gonna die.
If only I could laugh instead of the tears streaming down my face. Wiedering could present us with an indirect option. Not that he'd trade them in this week with the bye, but next week, if Carlton draft someone in the mid-season draft, like a Michael Hartley, and he trots out in sleeves.
Sam Durden.
Tobe
Watson. I'm really gunning for Tobe Watson just for meme factor.
It'd be good. It'd be very good. But one to keep an eye on there. I think that's the point of interest.
Yeah.
But well, that would require going early on a rookie, which I've been admonished for doing earlier this evening. So I cannot recommend it. But I'm just going to wink at the microphone and hope that translates. Just you hypothetically wink. You might be able to wink. Bring him in.
Let's talk Ruckman.
Oh boy.
Braden Pruce apparently doesn't play football for GWS anymore. And Sam Hayes, he's got the bye this week anyway.
Yep.
And Sam Hayes also has the bye this week. His break even after a 61 on the weekend is achievable still with 49. Theoretically, he could keep making cash for us, but he has slowed down a little from where he was at the start of the season.
Yes.
Is this an opportunity to upgrade either one of these guys? And let's be honest, you're probably looking at a Mark Blitzarves, who has just been given ruck eligibility, Sean Darcy, or, of course, Tim English. They're probably the main ones people are looking at.
Well, or J-Rod Witts.
Of course. I don't consider anyone over 600K as a viable option, but that's just because I'm,
a tight ass.
Yeah.
Yes. No, we know. We're very aware. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Because as I flagged, 3 weeks into the season, I really don't trust the Giants, and there's nothing that convinces me that Bruce is going to be first choice for the rest of the year, even though he's averaging 110 Supercoach points. And it took me a lot of rounds to be proven right, but here I am. Not that I'd be crowing about such a thing, but proven right. And it gives me very little confidence to keep him in my side, regardless of whether or not I have cover. He's still got cash to make, still got points to score. If he'll be doing that in the VFL or the AFL is anyone's guess, because who knows what the Giants are doing with anything. And to bring back the cube, I say.
Well, I'm just looking at the stats from the weekend in the VFL. He had 11 disposals, 7 kicks, 4 marks, 4 handballs, 1 mark, 1 tackle, and 17 hitouts for 42 Dream Team points.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not heaps.
Was he playing half a game in like as an emergency, or
It does look like he didn't play full game time, but obviously it's very difficult to find actual VFL stats. But either way, he was. I sounds like he wasn't super amazing, but I am just reading the stats. I didn't watch the game.
how dare you not watch every state league level game in
Yeah, I know.
preparation for this podcast? God, what are
including
you,
the
sick?
ones that don't have AFL affiliates. Because how could I not watch who's a Sturt play when they might have a mid-season draft prospect?
Exactly.
So jumping off Bruce, I think we're both supportive of it, and Hayes for that matter.
Yeah, I at this stage I'm potentially holding Hayes. I don't think. Yeah, I think you're fine to hold him. He'll be nice cover during the buys. But yeah, his time's very nearly at an end. And if it suits your side to move him on and to make that downgrade and make some cash for a big attack at it next week, then you're not going to hear me disendorsing such a decision.
I think if I can, I will hold Bruce over Hayes on the bench through the buys. But, because they've got the same break even essentially, and one of them is averaging 110 and one of them averaging 70. So, if I can get it to work, I might end up holding Bruce through the buys, but fully endorsing an upgrade to a player who's playing senior football.
I mean, Bruce might not be playing senior football at all either, and Hayes is far more likely to be playing senior football because Flynn was quite good on the weekend. Not that I watched that game either on account of not.
You're in a forest or whatever.
I don't think I was in a forest on Saturday. I was very hungover on Saturday, so yeah. But Flynn scored 85, was fine, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Without having any knowledge of that game, I'm going to say he was fine. Maybe he holds his spot. Who knows the inner workings of the mind of Mark McVeigh? I don't trust it.
Let's push on other players that people are looking at this week. As always.
Well, should we take the break and finally talk about the DPPs, because we've been putting it off?
You know what? Let's do it. Let's jump into DPPs.
It's been 27 minutes and it's what the people want.
Well, okay. Let's jump into the DPPs. Let me just say this. If you're looking at a premium who's averaging 100 plus and you've decided you want them in your team, trade them in. Tom Stewart, James Sicily, Jordan Dawson, whoever it is, trade them in. No issues from me.
Agreed. It's just, a no frills decision. As long as it doesn't, make sure you're looking at your buy structure, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, if they're averaging 100, then go for it, I guess. Like, I'm not going to stand here and tell you not to do that. Even if that player is Isaac Cumming or Hugh McCluggage, just do it. Go for it.
Do it. All right, let's talk DPPs. Dual position players, Patch.
Yes, we have 21. 20.
Sure.
I had the number up before and it's disappeared. Where's the number? Anyway, God,
right,
what shambles.
I'm gonna have to talk to the selection committee again, I think.
Oh geez. Oh God. All right. Well, we're just going to go to the most relevant. Billy Frampton added forward defense. He added defense. Right. I'm fine. That was where you're supposed to cut me off and take over and make it look like a clever bit. But anyway, Darcy Cameron.
I'm just watching a man have a breakdown.
You do that every week. Darcy Cameron was given ruck eligibility to the surprise of no one. Ben Hobbs is now forward eligible, as is Isaac Smith. Mark Blitzarves, as you mentioned before, is ruck eligible. The sweet defensive ruck swing, the second best DPP behind midfield / ruck into the game. Jason Horne-Francis is now forward eligible if you still got him. Connor Rosie, you can swing him into your midfield. Jaden Short can be swung into the midfield. Isaac Heaney can also do the same. Anthony Scott, Robbie McComb, if you've got either of them as cash cows, now forward mids. The Bont, Bailey Smith, Connor West, 3 titans of Supercoach, all mid forward eligible.
I'm really triggered with how you did that order and how you didn't say everyone. So I'm going to go through for the draft players out there and name all the spuds that got DPP added.
I wasn't going to waste people's time.
No, that's fine. I'm going to throw it out there. You never know. Someone might be in a keeper league. They might go, oh, that guy's on the waiver. I'll pick him up. So Sam Berry was forward, now forward mid. Tyler Brown was mid, now mid forward. Isaac Smith was mid, now mid forward. Adam Kennedy from GWS was mid, now defense mid. Harry Perryman. You skipped Harry Perryman. He's relevant. Was defense, now defense mid. Flynn Perez, defense into defense mid. Ivan Soldo, Richmond, ruck into ruck forward. Ollie Florent, mid into defense mid. Did you say Isaac Heaney?
I did.
Isaac Heaney, mid forward. And Sam Petreski-Seaton, defense forward. And Jermaine Jones, forward to defense forward.
Could you do that last one again, just to clarify? You stumbled over yourself.
Jermaine Jones, defense forward.
I know you have a cold, but goodness me, pull yourself together, man. Maybe I'll need to talk to the selection committee.
I am the Senate.
Harry Perryman is actually, I didn't realize he'd been doing so well, but there he is doing so well.
We had an in-depth discussion with him with my counterpart last week.
We did, which I did listen to, and I've already forgotten about because I have the memory of a goldfish. Can we move on to what we're doing with this new information about these new players that are DPP? Are we instantly going out and buying stonks in Connor West, well, Marcus Bontempelli and Bailey Smith? Like, are we doing that immediately? Like, is that what we're doing straight off the bat, or are we holding and going after their buy? Are we just not really changing our trade plans? What are we doing?
Well, look, let's talk about the fact that 877 players from Bulldogs are now forward eligible, thanks to the Bevo salad.
God bless the salad.
Bont, he was probably slightly underwhelming. I mean, you'll still take a 96, but probably slightly underwhelming. Break even of 122. He's probably one you can wait till after his bye. I know he has a huge ceiling, but against Geelong, last three scores 143, 122, and 96. But I think at his elevated price, you could hold off until he's had his bye. Bailey Smith is maybe a different story. Reason being, he's 40k cheaper, 552k. His break-even's a lot lower, break-even of 65. I think it's a little bit of a blessing that he missed for coaches that wanted to jump on him, that he missed, because you're now going to get him cheap in the forward line, and you're going to be able to generate some cash off him, assuming he plays this week against Geelong. So I think he's definitely one. They're two players you definitely want in your side. I think Bailey Smith is probably the priority just because of the lower price point.
Yep, I think you might be right, and the risk of him, disappearing out of sight. If you're looking to bring someone in, he's certainly a very, very good option. I don't know. Are there any names that really jump out at that list who you're now interested in, who you weren't interested in beforehand? I quite like Mark Blissarves as an option with a few very, very cheap rookies who have defense ruck for some reason eligibility. That could be a very interesting way of swinging that if you're looking to pick up some ruck cover. Say you've got a Braden Bruce and you're not convinced that he's best 22. Maybe you go with Blissarves at 540k, who you informed me has turned up 7 games in a row.
I misspoke. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7 of the last 8 he turned up, and the one he didn't was a 93.
Did you lie to me in song, Lekdog?
I hate it when you do that.
I hate it when you do that.
He's the number one ruckman at the moment. My only slight concern over him, and keep in mind I was laughed at on this podcast when he was about 100k cheaper a few weeks ago, about selecting him. He was 447k when I flagged him. Anyway, let's move on. We don't hold grudges here.
No, not at all.
Is that in about 3 weeks' time, what's his name? Segler? Is it Segler? Is that his name?
Probably. You're the one telling the story.
Is set to return. I think that they will play him. I don't think that they will necessarily play him as the number one ruck. They might play him as a ruck forward, but I think he will come into the team and potentially impact Blitzarv's scoring. But if you have a Dom Akui, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce his last name, or something like that at R3, or you wanted to go, as you said, Flynn down to an Akui or a Quay or whatever it is, and also bring in Blitzarvs, I think there's some validity to that. There's certainly some validity to that. I imagine if you're doing that, though, Patch, you still are going to want to have a good R1 and R2 and be sitting Blitzarvs in defense.
Correct. That would be my assumption there as well, unless you want to keep Hayes for the rest of the year. I can't see too many situations where that wouldn't be the case. So yes, are there any other players that sort of jump out at you as now new selections?
Not overly. Obviously, Harry Perryman, I'm a fan of, averaging 97 this year, averaging 102 over the last 5 games, 107 over his last 3. 104 over his last 5 games, 109 over his last 3. He has been injected back into the midfield a fair chunk by Mark McVeigh. Obviously, it was happening a bit before that as well, but he's certainly playing really well, and that's what he was always flagged as being a potential sort of really good midfielder. You're still picking him in defence.
Are you telling me the Giants took years and years to play a midfielder in their correct position?
That's what I'm telling you.
I'm shocked.
So he ran with Neil on the weekend as like kind of it wasn't a tag really. It was kind of just a soft run with. Obviously, Neil had 39 disposals.
It's like your running club kind of jog.
Yeah, he went to him in the second half, I think it was. He had 22 disposals in the midfield. Does his added midfield flexibility tempt me, Patch? It adds like 5% appeal to him as a player, just because if you're adding a defender, you want him to be a finishing defender in your side. But during the bye rounds, he's not playing this week. He'll play. Wait, is he playing this week? No, he's not playing this week. He was playing the following 2 weeks. You bring him in, gives you a bit of flex. There's some appeal, but it's not enough of a selling point for me.
No, fair enough. I think they're about the only players that I'm intrigued by from that list. But it certainly adds a little bit of spice to Supercoach and to what we're doing. Billy Frampton, obviously, get him in.
Darcy Cameron as well. I mean, he still has appeal. Has averaging 107 over his last 5, 104 over his last 3, 93 against the Blues forward ruck. Obviously, there's a clock against him, and that clock is Brody Grundy's return.
Yes,
which it could be 8 weeks away, it could be 4 weeks away. I'm not 100% sure on what the timeline is for Grundy, but in the meantime, he provides good cover and good flex for you.
Yeah, I think you missed the boat on our friend Darcy there. One other player, though, people will look to bring in, they might have been scared off a little bit by the fact that he was returning from a long layoff. They might have already traded him out of their sides. Timothy English, Lekdog, scored 160 against the ruckless, key backless Eagles, now averaging 128 for the season, and crucially, excitingly for you, still less than 600k.
I was going to say, still an option for me.
Do people bring him in at all costs with a break-even of 55 coming up against the Blitz in the ruck down at the Cattery? Or they're at Marvel. What am I talking about?
At all costs? There's still something in my soul that's slightly hesitant. But having said that, I'm going to try and bring him into my side this week. That break-even of 55, it's the same as or similar to Baslenka Smith. He's going to be, what's his price projected to jump to? His price is projected to jump from 597k up to 630k, up to 650k, and then peak at about 670. So if you want Tim English in your team, it essentially has to be this week. So highly encourage bringing him in.
Yeah. Would you be averse to people bringing him in as an R2 for a Bruce?
I'm not against it personally. I understand that the theory is that rucks score more, so you should, if you have a ruck that's available in another position, you should sit them in that position to maximize opportunity to get Ruckman into your team. I find it hard to believe people have the cash to bring in both a Tim English and a Jared Witts or someone of that ilk at the same time. If you can, good on you. I have no issues with sitting him in the ruck line, and then if something happens in the forward line, you just swing him up there and trade in another ruck later on.
Yep, fair enough. And I suppose just to be clear, we're getting towards the point of the season where you'd be trading in non-playing rookies to do that sort of swinging around. If you bring in a Blitzarves this week, I would not bring in the Domaquays of the world until the buys are over, or until you're
100%.
confident of getting those 18 warm bodies on the field. So just something to think about and keep in mind in case you hadn't considered that.
Yep, totally agree. If you wanted a cheap-ish pairing with him to sit in your forward line, Pete Laddams is one of the more traded-in players so far this week. He scored 115 on the weekend without Tom Hickey in that side. I'm not endorsing it. I'm merely pointing it out there.
I mean, when Tom Hickey was in the side, he didn't.
He scored about 6. Yeah.
Yes. Wasn't he tagging someone at some stage? Wasn't he
At one point, he was running with Patrick Cripps in the Sydney Carlton game.
Interesting. Yes. No, I would not advocate for that. He's had the 113 on the weekend and the 164 in round 6, but between those two scores, 85, 65, 57, 33. No, thank you.
Yeah, other than that, I don't think there's any must trade-ins this week. Obviously, with the buys being amidst the buys, it's just make sure you can get 18 players on field if you're competing this week for rank or in league. If you're looking for some cheapies, I still think I suggested him on the podcast last week as well. Kadeen Coleman still has a pretty good role, but keep in mind he took a lot of the possessions that would have normally been Daniel Rich's, I would suggest.
Yeah, and if you own Matt DeBoer in any draft or keeper leagues, just be aware that he will be going to The Hague and serving a long sentence. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, something to consider. Another player, I'm just looking through the highest trade-ins, this is a cash cow that people are trading in this week, is Sam Butler, who has scores of 18, 49, and 46 so far. So that's sort of how desperate we are at the moment in Supercoach for cash cows, Patch.
Yeah, it's bleak. It's bleak viewing. Not legally allowed to advocate for Mitch Owens, but once again, repeat that hypothetically, if Lekdog wasn't giving me the death stare, I would advocate bringing him in to my side.
All right. I think unless you've got anything else to cover, Patch, it's just go well and live long and prosper.
Yep, and don't make Jack Carroll the sub or send Matt DeBoer to Danny Rich, because both things will make everyone very upset. So if you don't do any of those things, community, you'll be right.
I meant to put this at the start of the pod, but if you are listening still, because we're starting to attract the attention of some sponsors and whatnot, which is fine, and it goes into a beer fund for the boys. Leave a rating and a comment on the podcast on whatever platform you listen to, because they do actually check those out before they decide they like us or not. So if you do listen and you enjoy the 40 minutes plus another podcast, about 80 minutes a week of audio plus articles, pretty much every day, go ahead and drop a comment and a rating on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. Please.
Yes, please do. Please,
even if it's a negative one, positive or negative, we'll start reading them out. So there's some incentive for you.
There you go. We'll read the funniest reviews out. How about that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I won't read like hate speech.
No, that would be awful. Unless it's hate speech against Mark McVeigh, in which case we'll consider it.
No, we condone it. We actually condone that on the podcast.
Yeah, we've got a third podcast for the hate speech against Mark McVeigh. Anyway, we're rambling. Get me out of here. Shut me up.
Go Blues.
Go the buys.